Thank you. I probably don't need to really introduce Tim Donnelly to anyone in this audience. His reputation precedes him, his work as a patriot precedes him, his dedication to the cause of the country precedes him. Tim has a unique quality. I'll say this. William Buckley said of Ronald Reagan, he's the only man that I know who does not care what the New York Times says about him. Right. And Tim Donnelly has this essential quality of a conservative leader, that he doesn't give a flying what anyone else says or thinks about him. He's going to do what he thinks is right and right for the country. And with that, I give you Tim Donnelly.
Thank you, Greg. You know, I sat in the very, very back at one of my very first political... Can you guys see me?
No, barely.
Really? Oh, I gotta go over here in my little free speech zone? How's that?
Yes.
All right. I spent about an hour sitting in the back at the first political meeting that I attended when I was running for Assembly back in 2010. Right here at the Redlands Tea Party. I watched a debate among, I don't know, there were 6 or 7 candidates at the time. And you know, what was exciting is the Tea Party was performing a really, truly important and valuable service. Because the political establishment doesn't want to have the debate that the Tea Party is forcing them to have in 2016. So give yourselves a round of applause for that. I gotta get used to this microphone where I have to hold it so far away. I usually like to have my weapons a little closer. If you want a yard sign, by the way, a couple just fell up here, but that's what the ruckus is. Look, you know, I'm excited about this election season because for the first time in a long time, we might actually have a choice. We might actually be able to select the person who's going to represent us instead of the person that the political establishment forces on us. If you were paying attention in the governor's race in 2014 here in California, you would have noticed that the very same players that are trying to take out Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Mitt Romney, and a whole bunch of their donors got so serious about picking our candidate. They spent $7.5 million against little old me. I'm just a guy that 5 years ago, or well, maybe it's a little longer, was running a little business in the back of my garage. You know, I didn't think I deserved that kind of attention, but I guess I was perceived as a threat. And they perceive you as a threat. You know, now they perceive the people's choice in 2016 as a threat. Whether it's Donald Trump or Ted Cruz, it's going to be one of those conservatives. I don't believe the Republican Party can survive if they try to foist a third candidate on the people. It would be suicide. They may try it. I wouldn't put it past them. But I want you to be encouraged. Because if it were not for the Tea Party, if it were not for this insurgency, if it were not for the rising movement of patriots who are demanding representation, who are saying, we will be heard, then there wouldn't even be a challenge. Because most of the time, when you have an establishment candidate in office, they have millions of dollars in the bank because the moneyed special interests buy it and make sure they don't have to work for their re-election. They make sure that they'll vote a certain way on a number of different issues. And it's almost always contrary to anything we believe in. Why is it that the Republicans seem to support amnesty when 80% of the people, Republican and Democrat, don't want anything to do with it? Have you ever asked yourself that question? How many of you here support amnesty for people who are in the country illegally? Okay, I'm waiting for one person to raise their hand. You know, I am excited to be doing something that a lot of Republicans are upset about, because I'm running against another Republican. You might have heard I'm running for Congress for the 8th Congressional District. And I want to say something about the man who is holding that office. Even though I have vehement disagreements with him on policy, he is a good man. He served this country in Vietnam, earned 2 Purple Hearts, and for that, every one of us should be immensely grateful. And while he served his country with distinction, he has not served us well in the Congress. Because there, we don't care what your past was. We care about how you vote right now. We care about how you represent us. And on December 2nd, 2015, everything changed. At approximately 10:36 a.m., you'll all remember where you were. I remember sitting in my living room trying to figure out which rifle from my arsenal was going to be the best weapon to defend my family. Because we didn't know where the killers were. We didn't know who the killers were. All we knew is that there were 2 or 3. They were either white or something else. They wouldn't say. They were dressed in tactical gear, meaning they're going to have some body armor, meaning it's going to have to be a headshot, which began to make me very nervous, because I hadn't been to the range nearly as much as I should have. So as I looked amongst my rifles, something occurred to me, because I had the television on, and Barack Hussein Obama, I won't call him the president because he doesn't want to be the president of this country. He wants to be a dictator. But Barack Hussein Obama came on the television and started talking about how he was going to take away our guns, and take away our rights, and take away our choice. And that was the answer that he had, before he even knew what the question was. We didn't know if it was terrorism. We didn't know if it was Islamic terrorism. The cops knew. But you know, strangely enough, due to political correctness, the media didn't want to mention the name of Syed Farouk because it sounded Islamic or Middle Eastern or something that might foment people to anger. Well, yeah, they just killed 14 innocent Americans. And now they're talking about taking away your ability to shoot back. So the gun that I selected is one that the Democrats would like to make illegal. It's a 1942 M1 carbine. How many of you know what that is? Yeah. Thank you for your service, by the way. If you know what that is, stand up. Yeah, thank you for your service. That gun was very useful in World War II. It is a very short-barreled carbine. It shoots 30 caliber, what appear to be pistol rounds. The magazine holds 15. So of course, you know, with this advent of forcing everyone to only have 10 bullets, just think about that. Why has the government have the right to determine how many bullets you get to shoot back with? What if you're a crappy shot? And I was a little worried about that in that moment. So I wanted to have the maximum firepower. I wanted to have enough bullets, because if you really think about it, you don't know how you're going to react in a severe situation. You might know how you're going to do at the range, right? How many of you are great shots at the range? Yeah. Well, I thought I was until I went to San Diego and I was shooting, I was doing pretty good. I was putting some lead down range. I was tearing up the paper. And all of a sudden, the range master came up behind me. I didn't know. And you can't turn around, right? Because you got to have muscle discipline. Muscle discipline, right? You got to keep it pointed down range. And I could feel somebody behind me, a big guy, kind of like this guy here sitting in the front. You know, and I'm not sure I want to mess with him because he's kind of burly. And all of a sudden, my target comes flying back at me. And I want to be able to tell you that I emptied the rest of my magazine and reloaded in those few seconds. But I didn't. I froze. All I was doing is the target was just moving. That was it. But you know, the realities of what we're facing today, you don't know how you're going to react. We are not trained in combat and in tactics and in everything else that our law enforcement and our military are. But the bottom line is, after San Bernardino, we're the front lines. And we are the front lines in a war that has been declared on us. And it is a war that has been aided by those in government who toe the line of political correctness. Because if our representatives were doing their job, and if our law enforcement had not been corrupted by the political correctness doctrine, then the Department of Homeland Security, the Civil Rights Division, would not have stopped their investigation into Syed Farouk in 2012. You know what he wanted to do in 2012, right? He wanted to go into UCR. He wanted to go into a room like this, full of innocent people. Well, maybe not like this, because this is, I hope, not a gun-free zone. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty confident it's not. But he wanted to go into a college campus, which is a gun-free zone according to our government, because they made it that way. And he wanted to slaughter as many people as he could. Then he wanted to go out onto the 91 freeway and throw out some pipe bombs and cause a traffic jam. And then he was going to walk down between the cars, Quentin Tarantino style. And he was going to begin executing people. And if you were there, what do you think you'd be doing? Somebody I heard say shooting. Well, maybe, unless you're a law-abiding Californian, because how is your gun going to be transported? It's going to be tied with a nice, neat little red bow in a box that's locked, right? That's California transport law. And then where's your ammunition? Well, if Gavin Newsom has his way, you won't even be able to buy ammunition without a permit. You'll only be able to buy a couple of rounds a month. But it's in your trunk, right, locked up where you can't get to it. And see, the reason I'm telling you that story is that story right there illustrates how critically and crucially important it is that we have someone represent us who gets it. And the question we should be asking ourselves in 2016 and in 2018 and in every election going forward is whether or not we're going to support people who are willing to occupy a seat and do little or nothing with it. Because the question that is facing us in 2016 is whether or not whether or not it's legal. We shouldn't be asking ourselves whether or not it's legal for us to own this weapon or that weapon or this magazine or that magazine or transport it this way or that way. We should be asking ourselves whether or not it is moral for the government. A government that has made it crystal clear that they cannot and they will not protect us. Whether or not it's moral for them to deny you the right to protect yourself. Oh, thank you. What right does the government have to determine your ability to defend your life? What right do they have when they have done two things in this particular case, through their complete failure to vet anyone adequately through their immigration system? And there was one woman, Tafshin Malik, the jihadi bride of the jihadi next door. Both of them could have been stopped by the government. We have outsourced our security to a government that has become corrupted and infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood to the point that political correctness runs amok. And the political correctness isn't harmless. It's extraordinarily dangerous when they pull off an investigation into hundreds of different suspects, all because they say, well, they were profiled because they were Islamic. Well, you know what? I really don't care who we offend. I don't want to go to another funeral of one of my neighbors like I did shortly after San Bernardino when President, well, I can't say president because he didn't act like a president. Obama came out here. He had a meeting with some of the families, but he didn't come to the funeral the next day. The next morning, there was a funeral with 400 people packing a gym for a 37-year-old father of 6, Michael Wetzel, who was one of my neighbors, who my kids went to school with, who my wife, who was sitting in the back there, administered a soccer program that he was a coach for. This is deeply personal. And so when I learned that Representative Paul Cook voted for the $1.1 trillion omnibus disaster, and that it contained funding for 300,000 refugees and immigrants from the Middle East who are unvetted, because we don't have a vetting system, and even if we did, you can't vet 300,000 people in 1 year. And when 10 to 13% of Muslims worldwide on the low end of the figure, Loretta Sanchez, a Democrat candidate for Senate, has stated it's somewhere maybe 20 to 25%. When that many people want to kill you, when that many people are sympathetic to jihad, let's call jihad what it is. It is the right that people have decided they have to kill you because you don't agree with their religion. And even if you do, you're not zealous enough. Because they don't just kill Christians, they kill Muslims too. Now, I don't know how you can figure out what is in the heart or the mind of a man. I think only God knows that. But until we have a better handle on this problem, as your congressman, I can tell you what I would have done. I would have taken the bill that Paul Cook did vote for, H.R. 4308. I would have taken the language of the bill that said we're not going to let more people come into this country from these terrorist-sponsoring regions until we have fixed our vetting system, until we have a handle and can figure out and do a proper background investigation. And I would have stood up on that floor and I would have said, I would have pushed an amendment to put that into the omnibus bill. And I would have gotten a number of my colleagues to go along with that. And then I would have dared Obama to shut down the entire government over his unwillingness to protect Americans. What are they so afraid of? I mean, somebody needs to send a memo to Congress and let them know, you guys are in the majority. Why don't you pick a fight once in a while? I mean, look at some of the stuff. Go ahead. Look at some of the stuff that was in that omnibus bill. $1.67 billion to transport illegal aliens. The only problem was, it wasn't to transport them back to their home country. It was to make them comfortable and carry them around the countryside so that it will be more acceptable every single time they do it. Remember when those 52,000 kids came in? Many of you stood up against that. I went out there to Murrieta. Because you know what happened with that? When you have 52,000 children who overwhelm our system, a lot of them are being trafficked. And our government became complicit in the trafficking. So now you got kids who are going off to a relative. Well, the Border Patrol can't determine whether that is an actual relative. They don't have time. So if somebody comes to pick them up, they were releasing them. And I'm telling you things that I've learned from the inside, from high-level Border Patrol agents. The same as I learned from high-level FBI agents and others within the Department of Homeland Security who have told us that when they properly enforce the law, whether it's illegal immigration, or when they properly identify a threat as Islamic and begin to investigate it, if they don't have enough political cover, they could lose their job over trying to keep this country safe. And I think it's important and critical and crucial at this time that we give them that political cover. So I want to tell you what I would do if I were elected to Congress. The very first thing I favor is repealing Obamacare completely. And I don't care who it offends. I don't care what it takes. We have the majority, and God willing, we're going to have a Republican president who would sign it. And we could begin to dismantle the socialism that was forced upon us in the Trojan horse that is Obamacare. Number two, I'd like to abolish the IRS and put in a fairer, flatter tax. We don't need over 90,000 people. What is the population of Redlands?
70,000.
70,000. Why do we need more than a city the size of Redlands to keep us in line? Why do we need agents who, many of whom are armed with M16s, to force us to comply? And you know, that's one of the biggest issues right now is federal supremacy. And if you watched any of the footage of what happened in Oregon, you've got the BLM, you've got all these different federal agencies that are throwing their weight around trying to keep Americans in line, and yet they're not in line with the Constitution. Because the Constitution does not grant the federal government any authority to own land outside of 10 miles outside of D.C. And then, in the states, it's allowed to own land for forts and ports. Once you get beyond that, why does the federal government own half of California? Why does the federal government own half of the western states? And then they organize their bureaucracy into a little bureaucratic army. If you wander off into the forest, God help you. Because if you don't have the right permit, if you don't have papers, you could wind up in federal custody. Well, I thought that was the public's land. Last time I checked, that was our land. Why has the federal government seized it? See, once a state goes from being a territory to a state, the federal government is supposed to cede that land to the state so that we can actually use it. Some of it could be used for private uses like farming and mining and other things that are productive. But instead, we get the scraps from the table, and you have to pay them a fee to be on land that actually belongs to the people of the state of California. You know, then you have Obama coming out here doing a 2 million acre federal land grab, taking more control. And everybody says, oh, well, it's probably going to be good because in the end they'll take better care of it. No, in the end, their goal, they made it clear, just like their goal is to erase the Second Amendment, their goal is to kick the people off the land. They'll call it public land, but the only people who aren't welcome on there are the public. So those are a couple of the issues that I think are important. And there's one more that I want to mention, and that is reforming and fixing our VA. It is shameful what we do to those who have served this country by breaking the promise, by making them wait 9 months to even get their benefits. Longest wait anywhere in the country is California. We have more veterans than any other state here in our state. And we have a system where all the financial incentives go to treat patients, to treat our veterans as if they're a liability. And that is one thing that I will champion, that is one thing that I will fight for, because a country is judged by how it treats its widows, its orphans, and its veterans. And we are not treating our veterans well. We need to show our gratitude with action and actually turn that thing upside down. I hope we get a president in there that has that vision, because I will help it. How are we doing on time? Sure, what?
2.5 years.
2.5 years? You want me to speak for 2.5 years?
You're going to be a congressman.
Oh. Hey, it's real easy for me to give a speech, but I don't know what's on your mind. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.
You have any questions for Tim? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Donnelly, so we can alert our friends and family members in the right area, what cities actually compose your district?
The district starts in Joshua Tree, extends all the way over to the Arizona border, goes up and takes in, it's one of the largest in the entire state, it takes in the mountains, it takes in the high desert, and then it goes all the way just short of Lake Tahoe. So it includes a huge part of the Eastern Sierra, including Bishop and Bridgeport and the Mammoth Lakes, June Lake, Convict Lake. But as far as cities, you would have the Yucca Valley, Yucaipa, Morongo Valley, you've got Big Bear, you've got Lake Arrowhead, Twin Peaks, of course, where I'm from. But all of the mountain communities. And then Victorville, Hesperia, Apple Valley, Adelanto, Barstow. It's just a massive, massive swath.
Highland.
It includes Highland, Mentone, right where you are is actually in the district. So, but no, it's not, no Redlands.
What about Wrightwood?
It takes in Wrightwood and it takes in a couple of streets in Upland.
Anyone else? What else is in the Ryan Pelosi budget that you oppose and Congressman Cook voted for?
Well, it wasn't just Congressman Cook. You also had all of the establishment Republicans vote for it and then stand up and give Paul Ryan a standing ovation for voting for a bill that contained funding for sanctuary cities. Remember, we wanted them to defund sanctuary cities, especially after Kate Steinle was killed. It contained, I think it was something like $500 million to the UN for some greenhouse global warming payoff. You know, all these little schemes that the government has to try to reduce the temperature. None of that's about global warming. You know what that's about? That's about control. And I want a government that will control itself, not try to control me.
Another question here.
My question is about the illegal immigration. What is the history on that, and how is it that the illegal immigrants were able to get all this free stuff? If they're indeed illegal, I mean, it's almost a no-brainer, just cut off the money.
It's really simple. It's a political shell game. So you have the Republican establishment who want cheap labor, and you have the Democrats who want cheap votes. And so they've made sort of an agreement with each other that they're never going to do anything about it. That's number one. And it doesn't matter that the people actually want something done. It doesn't matter that people are dying. And you know, Kate Steinle was just the latest. I mean, one thing I'm very grateful to Donald Trump for is putting Jameel Shaw and putting a whole lot of others, Sabine Durden, and others on a national stage because the New York Times and the LA Times and the Chicago Tribune and the San Francisco Chronicle have always told the sob story about the person who came here illegally. But they've never told the story of the victims. And you know, when I first ran for office in 2010, I had a very simple message. And I walked door to door, by the way. And I won with, I believe at the time, the least amount ever spent in an assembly race in a safe Republican district. I spent about something, we raised $15,000, we spent something like $29,000. We walked door to door in Los Angeles County. We walked door to door all over the district. It went from La Cañada to Lucerne Valley. And we had one simple message. Tim Donnelly will introduce the Arizona law into California and enforce our immigration laws.
Right on.
And you know how we got around to such a simple message? Because there were 9 people running, and I believe 6 or 7 were Republican. And it's hard to distinguish yourself, kind of like we saw when there were 17 presidential candidates. So we boiled it down to the biggest difference. And we discovered something fascinating. Democrats were putting up yard signs for me, just like one did this past week in Ukiah. But something else. I walked up to the door of an Hispanic woman, and I'd heard all this stuff about the Hispanic vote. And I never believed any of it, because I figured Hispanics are just like they're just like the rest of us. They're people. And they're Americans. Period. So I told her, I said, you know what, I am in favor of legal immigration, but I oppose illegal immigration. I will bring the Arizona law to California. And then I paused. And she said, thank God somebody's taking a stand. She said, give me that sign. I'm putting your sign in my yard. She said, because I'm sick and tired of being lumped in with the illegals. And you know, I found that everywhere. And we saw this in Nevada with Donald Trump. If you take a principled stand on an issue that has become so divisive, because the media can trot out a narrative. And they tried it with Donald Trump. They called him a racist. They called him Hitler. They called him a Nazi. They went on and on and on and on. And he just said, hey, call me whatever you want, but I'm going to stand up for the country. A country without borders is not a country. But see, the political establishment has figured out if they spin the myth of the Hispanic vote, and then they give it greater weight than the vote of Americans who are concerned about illegal immigration. And if everybody believes that, and almost every one of your establishment politicians at the state level and the national level all believe that, because they never spend any time on people's front porches. Well, that's where I live. I can't afford to do polling, so I just listen to people. And, you know, if you're running a grassroots campaign, it's a little dangerous to spend 20 minutes on somebody's porch. Or maybe it isn't. Because what you could find out could be invaluable in reaching that person's neighbors and in articulating a message that is truly representative of what people are concerned about. Any other questions?
We have one of our favorite activists. Like, look up the word activist in the dictionary.
Oh, no, don't give her the mic. Come on.
If you have a t-shirt here, you might like to see.
Give it up for Robin. Robin Vincent. Before she asks her question, you know where I met Robin? I met her at the border. I was being interviewed by BBC. I was on my way home, and I just had to talk to her. She was just so full of energy and everything. What an awesome activist she is.
I just wanted to mention we have an event today honoring our American citizens killed by illegals, and I'm wearing Kate Steinley's shirt. What is your stance on Obama's unconstitutional DACA, the
The deferred arrival
Yes,
for
deferred
children.
arrival for children,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm against any and every form of amnesty or every and any incentive to create more illegal immigration. Because when you create an incentive like DACA, you wind up being responsible for the blood that is shed from every one of those kids that died on that journey, every one of those kids that was raped on that journey, coming to America because they were invited by the president who is doing something that violates federal law. And you know, there's something so pernicious about using children as pawns in a political discussion rather than just saying, look, we want open borders because we get rich off of it. And as Democrats, we want open borders because we stay in power forever. Let's just be honest. And I think we need a lot more honesty and transparency in our government.
We know there's a lack of physicians, there's a physician shortage in America, and unfortunately, I shouldn't say my opinion is, there's a lot of H-1B visas, physicians from who knows where, and we're filling these gaps of healthcare with H-1B visa physicians who can't speak English. What would you do to stem that, if you can stem that? But at the same time, how would you get healthcare to the masses since there's such a shortage?
Well, the first thing we have to do is repeal Obamacare. The second thing we have to do is we have to start paying cash for our services. That means a health savings account. That means something that you control, not the government, because as soon as the government controls it, as soon as somebody else is paying for it, there's no longer an incentive for the cost to be accountable to you as a consumer. So number one. The other thing is, why do we tolerate the H-1B visa system altogether? Because it's designed to undermine American jobs and American workers and let massive corporations make a fortune off of basically a slave labor force. Disney fired people that were making $75,000 to $125,000 a year and replaced them with people that were making $40,000 to $60,000 a year. It's simple math. But you know what? They literally eliminated American jobs. That is a violation of the so-called legislation that created H-1B visas. So once you realize that, you have to say, well, who's in charge of policing this? Well, the same people in charge of policing it are the ones who get bribed by the companies benefiting from it. I'd like to see it become illegal to legally bribe our representatives. Wouldn't it be nice if they had to walk their entire district in order to win and be competitive, rather than build up millions and millions and millions of dollars in the bank so that they can just get a 50 caliber machine gun and rake the competitors? And on that note, I'll let you know, I am actually having a fundraiser not far from here at Riley's Farm. How many of you have been to Riley's Farm? So you heard of the Politichicks? Well, they're very good friends of mine. So Anne Marie Morrell, Dr. Gina Loudon, and Morgan Brittany are going to come. We're also going to have Alfonso Rachel and Marta from The Sound of Music. Remember the littlest girl? She's flying out from Minneapolis. I've invited Rob Schneider. I don't know if he's going to be able to make that one, but he is going to do one of my events. Look, there's another way to do this. I'm not asking people for big checks. I am going to ask you for money if you can't make it to that event, because I would be remiss if I didn't. And I wouldn't have any chance of winning, because the establishment, not just the current congressman, but a whole bunch of people that want to keep control of that seat, are going to spend a lot of money lying about me. They're going to spend a lot of money trashing me. And I'm going to ask you to give me $5 or $10 if you can. There's an envelope up here. Grab a yard sign. Or come out to our event and become part of the solution. I don't just want your money. I want you to walk door to door with me. I want you to inspire people. And I can tell you right now, at some of the doorsteps where we go, I was in Highland the other day and I talked to a Bernie Sanders supporter. He looked at my flyer. He said, "What's this patriot not politician mean?" And I said, "Well, that means one of us who is of the people, who wants to go serve, rather than someone who is a politician and wants to become part of the political class." And as soon as I said that, he got excited. Then he asked me a couple of other questions. He wanted to abolish the IRS. This guy's a Bernie Sanders supporter. I asked him, who's your second choice for president? I'm just curious. If Bernie doesn't make it, are you going to vote for Hillary? He said, "No, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump." And then he shook my hand and he said, "I'm going to vote for Tim Donnelly for Congress." Anyway, so come and join us. Oh, you have one more question?
One more question, and I have one more, and then we'll wrap it up.
Nowhere or no time have I heard any of the politicians discussing the fact that we still have out of our harbors, especially in Los Angeles, boats that go out of the country empty and come into the country full. From China, Japan, India, all the way. What are we going to do about that? I mean, when are we going to start getting back to Made in America? What do you think?
I spent 25 years in manufacturing. I was never involved in politics before 2010. As a matter of fact, I used to write checks at 3 o'clock in the morning to the government. I've hired people. I get it. I watched the giant sucking sound. At first it went to Mexico, and then it went to China. I also favor free markets and free enterprise. So what we have to do is get the government off our backs and off the backs of our companies. How many of you here own a business? Well, then you should be on the Christmas card list of every politician who's grateful for having a job carved out by fees and regulations, because they're basically vampires feeding off of you. We have so many regulations. They create new regulations and new laws just so that they can create new jobs. And when those new jobs are created in the public sector, by the way, then people join unions. And then the public sector unions legally bribe our politicians to create even more regulations so they can continue to grow their bureaucratic army. I think we should put an end to that vicious cycle. And I'm not in favor of closing ourselves off and being isolationists. I know that's a very popular idea. But also, I drive a Toyota. How many of you in here drive a Toyota? Okay. Do you know that they made my Toyota truck at a plant in Fremont, California that General Motors abandoned? Because General Motors was controlled by their unions and they weren't competitive at the time. But Toyota was. So I always want to get the best deal. I want to be able to buy whatever I want to be able to buy as an American. I wish it was made here. I think we can do that, but it's a lot more complicated, and it's going to take a mindset change. And I think this movement that you're seeing, this insurgency that is spread all the way from the right to the left, is going to have something to say about that. And I will definitely be involved and a champion of that. Greg, your last question?
Maybe two. Judy says she wants to ask a quick question.
I just found out, my husband and I just found out last Saturday, we moved 2 months ago from Loma Linda to Yucaipa. And it was by chance, something came in the mail, and I said, District 8? I called John Wesley real quick. I says, what district are you in? District 8. I says, guess what? I am now too. So I just found out, and he's told me a lot about you, and I just found out that you are running in our district. So, when are you going to be coming to Yucaipa? Do you know?
I was there earlier this week walking door to door and had a tremendous reception. It's a beautiful city, by the way.
We love it.
And then I ate at the Mad Greek. Have you eaten there yet?
No, I've seen it.
Oh my word, that place is amazing.
It's followed. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I might have just given it away because I'm planning to take my wife there on her birthday and then go see the Big Fat Greek Wedding Part 2. So I guess I'm not going to surprise you, honey.
I just had lunch with the perturbed Italians. That's also very good. Last question. Do you see the role of elected official more than just going off to Sacramento or Washington and hopefully voting the right way?
Say it again.
You see the role of an elected official as more than just going off to Sacramento or Washington and hopefully voting the right way?
Absolutely. See, when you hold a seat, first of all, that seat is not yours. The seat belongs to the people. And it contains with it a great deal of power that has been lent to you. So I believe you need to use the bully pulpit. I believe that it is the duty of those who are entrusted with that power and with that seat to go out into the community, to go out into the streets, to fight on the issues on which they were elected, to stand up and organize people so that you become much larger than simply one vote in that building. And so when I was in Sacramento, instead of going and hanging out with the lobbyists, I met with some lobbyists, but they stopped coming after I kicked one of them out of my office. And he claimed that I threatened him. All I did is look at my guns on the wall, okay? He doesn't know what I was thinking. But he was really mad at us because we want to control government spending. We want to control how much they confiscate and steal from us. And he was offended by that because he worked for a public sector union. And he didn't like having to take a 15% pay cut. And I told him, I said, I'm from the sink or swim union. A lot of my friends have taken a 100% pay cut. So after that, the lobbyists stopped coming to see me, and it was kind of a relief. And I stopped going to their events, and I started going to tea parties. I started going to church meetings and civic meetings within 3 hours of the Capitol so that I could speak to people of like mind and begin to organize them and do something. And you know, it's exciting because now when I'm running for office, those people want to back me. I'm getting contributions, small, $5 to $10 from all over the state and all over the country. I think that's a better model than getting massive contributions from PACs or PACs who can spend a limited amount of money to determine who your representative is. And I think that's something we really need to work on because it's time that we get back to answering to the people. And the best way I know how to do that is to wear out shoe leather. But I want you to know that as I'm walking door to door, I'm probably going to need a new pair of these. These boots were given to me on the governor's race by a Ukrainian immigrant, but they do have an American flag on them. So these boots were made for walking for liberty. Anyway, God bless you and Godspeed.
I know there are quite a few people here who live in his district. Can we see a show of hands of all of you who live in the 8th district? I think there are more than I'm seeing hands. Quite a few folks. So thank you for coming tonight, and thank you again, Tim. We appreciate what you